All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Submission Radio Morning After. It's a cold morning here in Melbourne, Australia, but I'm warmed in my heart by these two guests who are kind enough to join me. By the way, it's one day back where these guys are. I'm in the future here in Australia. They're on Sunday time, and they're kind enough to take some time with me. And I want to introduce them to you here today. You know them both already, but I have to introduce them. And this first guest that I'm introducing right here, you know, what can I say, man? The guy's an absolute legend. One half of one of the best MMA podcasts out there, the Anik podcast. I'm not going to say the other name. I don't want to spoil the introduction. This is an absolute MMA legend, but a top one contender for the best of the best. And he's slumming it here with me today on a Sunday. Kenny Florian, how did I get so lucky, my friend?
Oh, man. Thank you very much for the kind introduction, man.
By the way, do you take over the world in that office? What is going on? That is some world domination. got a little dog statue in the corner. Anyway, we'll get back to that.
That's a real dog, by the way. It just doesn't move. Very obedient. Very obedient. Yeah.
This next man is so kind that his internet stopped working. So he actually went to his mom's house to make sure that this could happen. So extra points to this guy who has the smoothest voice in the game, featured on Bellator, UFC, WWE, and more. It's about it, and I think it's about time we look at a sexy phone line for this man. Get a minute with Jimmy. That sounds like $1 million idea. Let's see if we can talk him into a Jimmy Smith. What do you think?
I already own it, by the way. I don't know what. It's not new. Kenny calls me every single day. I just want everybody to know the way it worked is, you know, are you going to do Submission Radio? I'm like, oh, I don't know. Well, like Kenny texts me and he goes, I'm going to be on Submission Radio. I don't want to do it without you. I get nervous in front of people. I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm like, all right, Kenny, I'll do it. I'll do it with you just to get him over the nerves and everything. That's why we're both here at the same time.
I apprate you holding my hand. Thank
Anytime.
you. He pulled through. He pulled through.
Hey, right here, Kenny. Touch it. Touch the camera. Touch it. There we go.
Hey, fellas, I've got to say as well, someone who's not holding their hand to potential title shots is Movsar, man. I don't know if you guys saw, but unbelievable, right? So all of us just getting straight into it. Yeah. A couple of weeks back, Ali Abdelaziz tells me the news that Movsar is fighting again, and my head is blown, fellas, because I'm like, what the hell is going on? What does this mean for Volkanovski? So it turns out he is fighting Aaron Pico. Jimmy, I'll go to you first, dude. Any surprise to you that the UFC decided to make him have one more fight before he gets his title?
100%. 145 is aging out. It is. It's one of those divisions like 55, and Dustin Poirier said this recently. He goes, look, we're all getting older. None of us are getting younger. A lot of us have been through the mill in some very, very tough fights. The idea that you need fresh blood, you have a new contender there that the fans don't know as much, it'd be kind of exciting addition. I don't think a ton of people are interested necessarily in another rematch for Volk, who is at the end of his run as well. So it was very, very surprising. Also, someone as tough as Aaron Pico, that whole combination really surprised me. They need fresh blood. They have a guy there, and they're making him wait and having him fight another guy that could be a potential contender down the road. It seems like you're killing two birds with one stone when you need both birds. And I didn't really get it myself. No.
Kenny, why not give Movsar the next title shot? And what is the thinking here from the UFC?
Well, you know, I think there's the meritocracy. There's that, right? And that's always open to interpretation. It's like, who deserves anything? I don't know. But, you know, there's a lot of arguments that can be made. But of course, it's the fight business. And, you know, Movsar, similar to Dvalishvili, is most likely in the UFC's eyes, and maybe because of the fans themselves, they're going to give him the hardest path possible. Why? Because maybe he's got, I don't know, 9 decisions in the UFC or whatever it is, you know. And that's not a fault. It does not mean he's not a great fighter, and it certainly doesn't mean that he doesn't deserve this shot. Based on what he's done, I think he does, but it is the fight business, and the UFC is looking to sell pay-per-views. You know, and people are pointing it out today, like, oh, but look at Movsar. Look at how many followers he has on Instagram. He has way more than Yair Rodriguez, for example. I'm like, okay, that's great, but you know, the UFC is looking to put on exciting fights for the fans, and perhaps they want to see Movsar prove himself against one of the most exciting fighters in that division in mixed martial arts, Aaron Pico, who I don't think he's ever been in a boring fight. So, you know, we'll see how that goes. And, you know, Movsar, I think, is taking a very similar path that Dvalishvili took.
So let's talk about, just quickly before we get into this whole situation with Volk, what's next for Volk, who is going to win between Movsar and Aaron? Do you have a good feel on this one, Jimmy? I mean, you've commentated a bunch of Pico's fights.
Yeah, a bunch of Pico's fights. The problem is your UFC debut is always tough. You know, we've seen fighters who went on to become champions falter in their UFC debuts, right? Anytime you come to a new promotion, new lights, new everything, it can be a difficult step. And to do it against Movsar Evloev, extremely difficult, very difficult. And what I see in Aaron Pico from the beginning, and I'd love to get Kenny's take on this. I call a lot of boxing. And one of the things about boxing is the amateurs are where you build your fundamentals. By the time you're a pro and you're fighting pro guys, you need to know how to throw a jab. You need to know your footwork. You need to throw combinations. In MMA, we do have amateur fights, but we don't have an amateur system like boxing has an amateur system. Those 10 or 15 fights before you get to Bellator, PFL, UFC are kind of the amateurs where you build your fundamentals. And one of the problems with Aaron Pico diving right in, not just at Bellator, but against really tough fighters in Bellator, is I kind of see some Michael Chandlerisms in him. He tries to knock you out with every punch. He doesn't have like a real he has great wrestling and great striking. He's not real fluid putting them together. I see a lot of really great pillars of his style, but this idea that the mortar, right, the ability to kind of sew it all together, he didn't get those 5 to 10 fights on the way up in the local show to kind of build how to be an MMA fighter. You had to learn on the job. And that is really, really difficult to do. You're expected to know how to shoot a jump shot in the NBA. You don't learn in the NBA. You get better at certain things in the NBA, but your fundamentals have to already be there. The one thing about Aaron Pico is he's uber talented, has all these physical skills, but he tends to rely on the kinds of things that fighters rely on early on in their career, which is, you know, his power, his speed, his explosiveness, right? He tends to over-rely on those things. And Movsar Evloev, to me, is the exact kind of guy, patient style, a ton of UFC experience, is used to going long, difficult rounds, exactly the kind of guy who's not going to fall for that early exchange that's going to get him clipped and hurt. So it's a tough style matchup. Although Aaron Pico is really exciting, it's a tough style matchup for him for those reasons.
What do you say, Kenny?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I think that Jimmy's spot on. It's tough, and that's why I think the young fighter in today's MMA world has such an advantage in that, you know, a lot of these guys are already coming in because they've been starting the sport since they were young. Will come into the sport already with solid fundamentals, and that is a huge advantage. To try to develop those in professional mixed martial arts when you're already in some of the big shows is a lot to ask. And no matter how great of an athlete you are, someone like Aaron Pico, you're going to falter and stumble along the way. You know, and that's why it's so impressive when you see a guy who, even if they've had maybe not so great performances, let's say like a Khamzat Chimaev, for example, you know, everyone loves to criticize him for the Gilbert Burns fight, but at the end of the day, he did win that fight and is getting better and still showing improvements. But you know, it's tough to stay undefeated in this sport, let alone take on huge challenges earlier in your career. Now, part of that's the promotion's fault for setting him up against those tough fights. Some of it is him and his team's fault, you know, for taking those fights. So it is it's a very difficult thing to do. And also there's a drastic difference between doing something in training and doing something in a fight. Experience absolutely matters. And, you know, in regards to the fight itself, I also think Jimmy's correct in that it's going to be a very interesting matchup between two guys of very contrasting styles. Yes, they both are kind of grapplers at heart, at the core, you could say. But as far as their approach to how they fight, it's very different. Aaron Pico, I think we'd all agree that maybe gets reckless at times. Evloev is quite the opposite of that. He's way more conservative. I think he's showing more wrinkles to his game. I think he is showing improvements in his striking, maybe not so much at a quick rate like a lot of people would like to see. But contrasting styles nonetheless. And I think it's going to be a fascinating matchup in Aaron Pico, a guy without those wrestling skills, to see if his takedown defense can hold up against someone like Evloev.
That very well said, Kenny. The interesting thing here is we haven't even spoken about, like, let's say Pico does land one of those crazy fast lightning shots. Boom! It's like a firework whenever he knocks someone out, right? Like out of nowhere. Jimmy's been there. He's seen it. It's like defined speed and all sorts of different elements, right, Jimmy, when he does it.
Yeah.
And also the guys just drop. Let's say he does that. Is he a real threat to Alex Volkanovski, do you guys think? We haven't really spoken about what a Pico Volkanovski fight would look like. Jimmy, like, is Aaron Pico here? Could he be considered a threat to someone who's, in my book, the greatest featherweight champion of all time?
The problem is, and I hate to say this, but it's true, time catches all of us. And Volk, at this point in his career, I'm not joking, anyone in the top 10's a threat, because this could be the fight when you're on the dark side of your mid-30s. You've been through a million wars. You've been a champ before. You've come back. You've climbed the mountain so many times that it only takes one. And the thing about this sport is, if you're a stick and ball fan sport, right? You like football, you like baseball, like basketball, you usually get a bad season out of somebody, right? The start of the season, they're not as good. They start doing this, and you go, okay, they're ready for retirement. In fighting, it's boom. They're just not the guy they were in the previous fight. Volk is at the age that's going to happen at some point. Anyone who can crack or put physical pressure on him, who doesn't basically go in there and lay down, there's the threat that could be the night. Sometimes you bet on someone's opponent. Sometimes you bet that time catches up with somebody by this point. With Volk, it's both, right? He's any new, young, hungry, up-and-coming 145 pounder. To Kenny's point, these guys are training like professionals from a very early age. It's going to be dangerous. And Volk has just been through a ton of wars. That's why we love him. That's why he's an all-time great. But when that dip happens, someone's going to be there waiting for him. Now, it could be Evloev. It could be Pico. It could be anybody at 145. So the problem is it's kind of coming at him from both sides. But I think definitely Aaron Pico, with his physicality, is a threat to anybody.
So, Kenny, what people are talking about here is a Yair Alex Volkanovski fight, a rematch. We just saw the fight not long ago. Alex absolutely dominated Yair in every single area. Not only that, but I guess it's because it was going to be UFC Mexico, and we're hearing there's troubles actually securing the arena now where they were supposed to do it. Explain to me, from your perspective, is the UFC overestimating the interest fans would have in a rematch here? Because even with Movsar not being the most exciting fighter, even with, Yair being loved by the fans are not happy about the idea that they have to watch a second rematch between Volk and Yair here so soon after Volk dominated him. And knowing that both guys have a friendship and it's kind of like, hey, let's just have another fight. Let's just do it because we like each other. We're friends. It just kind of makes sense because it's Mexico. Fans aren't happy.
Yeah. Listen, I think, again, fans kind of want to see some kind of rhyme and reason for the fights that are going to be made. And the UFC has different metrics. And I don't want to come out here and say, I think this is the wrong fight, yada, yada, yada. I've said that before. And I can make an argument that Evloev should have been the guy to get that fight. I think it would have made a lot of sense. The Yair Rodriguez fight, I can see why they're making it. Do I think that's the fight they should make? Probably not, but I can see why they're making it. First of all, you get a guy in Yair who has a highlight reel that is awesome. If you're promoting a big title fight, you have this good-looking kid from Mexico who has a huge following. They're trying to do a big event in Mexico. They have a great highlight reel they can put together. He looked phenomenal in his last fight against Pitbull. And, so he has a lot of things going for him. And for Evloev, I'm sure they put the numbers together and they looked at the numbers, looked at the metrics, and they're like, this isn't a fight that's going to pull in as many bucks for us. So unfortunately, yes, that plays a part in what fights get made. So I think that's why they're heading in that direction.
It's wild, man, because we could have done Yair Diego Lopez in Mexico. Right,
a co-main event, man. That was the fight. I thought.
What are they doing?
100%.
Yeah.
What are they doing? Plus, they don't even ESPN's just paying them a flat rate for their pay-per-view anyway. And we've already seen some of the pay-per-views we've got coming up. We'll be talking about the Merab fights shortly, but you don't have the biggest bangers in the world. So that, and also it's like, fresh challenge for Volko. Volko said that he wants to fight himself. The whole thing is crazy. The featherweight division, though, is on fire. Just quickly, fellas, before I move on from it. So what does this mean for the new big star in the division, Jon Silva? Like, Kenny, I just want to go back to you. Who you booking Jon Silva against? If it's up to you. We got some names in there. People are saying, hey, what if you throw him in there with the Diego Lopez, throw him in the deep end of the pool? Or do we put him in there against the Pitbulls? Do we put them in there against some of the other guys in the division? The Brian Ortegas, I don't know if he's still around. I was speaking to Lorne Murphy earlier this week, the forgotten man in the division, also someone with not much fanfare. God, I had no idea how much people dislike that guy. Since I put up my interview, people were like, what the hell are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. What did I like? Leave the guy alone. He's doing his best. He's one of the best ranked. Yeah, maybe he's in there. Who do you do against Jon Silva?
So, I think that Josh Emmett has and this is no disrespect to Josh Emmett, but he's kind of been the gatekeeper a little bit. Like he's that guy. I'm sorry.
The exact same. I was like Josh Emmett. I like.
Really?
First thing I thought. Anyway, get out of my mind.
Yeah, because he's that guy. Like he's got crazy knockout power. He's the kind of the proving ground. It kind of starts and ends with him. And if you get by someone like Josh Emmett, just like Ilia Topuria did, then you prove yourself as not only a legit fighter, maybe a knockout artist or a guy who's very defensively sound. And Josh Emmett's always game and always dangerous. So. He's kind of like that Neil Magny of the featherweight. So I think that would be a really interesting challenge for Jon Silva, who I think could be a title holder for sure in that division. I'm a big fan. First time I saw him, I think I thought he was going to be a star, and he's only gotten better and more confident. So he's a problem.
Jimmy, he got into your head. He got the name.
Yeah.
What else do you think? What else is he thinking up there, Kenny? God,
you don't want to be in my brain, dude. That's the last place.
Scary. I saw some scary things, man.
Kenny will tell you. And also, we say in the WWE, certain guys get you over, meaning they'll either lose, and it'll be an exciting fight, and fans will be drawn to you, or Josh Emmett will put you to sleep and put all of it to rest, and we go, okay, guess now we know it isn't one of those. It's a bad style matchup, they out wrestled him, and there's no doubt either way when you face Josh Emmett. And he didn't used to be that guy. A few years ago, he kind of flipped the switch and started knocking guys out. And that idea that he's built like a tank, what's coming. You can get plenty of footage on the guy. He's been in the UFC for a long time. So in a few different ways, that's the best guy, for better or for worse, for him. I believe that.
Yeah, and I think maybe one of the forgotten guys, and just to throw in another option would be Lerone Murphy, a guy who's kind of a forgotten guy in that division, who's undefeated. Maybe people weren't so happy with his last fight, but so maybe they'll feed him to Jon Silva.
Dude, I told Lone, I go, dude, you should be calling for this guy. He was like, I'm like, this is the big name, right? Like, you go take out the big name,
right?
I feel bad for the guy though. He's really copped it. He was talking about he's getting all these hate messages on social media. This is the guy that won in the main event of the UFC.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
People cannot stand him after that performance, and he's like, "These are the best guys in the world. Like, I want to do better, but these are the best guys in the world, guys. Give me a break."
Right? How dare you win by decision? Yeah.
Oh, by the way, hey Kenny, I was going to ask you on that. I didn't write it down, but I was going to ask you. You're a contender, one of the best fighters. In your time in the division, did you let sort of fans get it? Like, was there a point where fans got in your head at all with any of the trash talk or the negativity online? And how did you handle it? Because Lorne was like pretty affected by it when I spoke to him. He was like, man, just stuffed.
Never, man. I don't let anything get inside this head, man. I just nothing. You're
not like Jimmy, where we can all read his mind.
I let Kenny in, by the way. I trust Kenny. Kenny's in here. Kenny's in here. That's why. That's why he's in here, because he's in here. Okay?
When I would just meditate all the time and just deflect any negativity. No, of course you do, man. Like, of course. Especially I came up as one of like the nerds on the forum. So I for a little bit while I was fighting, I must admit, I would read the articles and stay on the forums and see what people were saying. Yes, sometimes about me. But it can absolutely get to you. I mean, a fan could get to you by like saying something to you. A barista at Starbucks could say something to you. You're like, oh, what? Oh, yeah, maybe I should strike more. Maybe I should do this. Like, look at Bilal Muhammad, one of the most strategic, in my opinion, one of the most strategic and smartest fighters when it comes to executing game plans. Aljamain Sterling, same thing against Sean O'Malley. Bilal Muhammad just admitted, and I do believe him that he got away from the strategy. So it can happen, absolutely. And sometimes the promotion themselves can get into your head as well. Like, hey, we need an exciting fight. We need this, or you're boring. So absolutely, everybody is vulnerable to this, and interesting.
So what do you do? You just block it out, Jimmy? What do you do? Jimmy's gotten some hate online, I'm sure, in the past.
Oh, all the time.
What do you do?
Their names aren't on the checks.
That's true.
I swear to God, I try to listen when I'm coaching people, because like you go from like an athlete to a coach and a mentor to fighters coming up. I go, all those fighters, the fans that tell you you should trade more, you should do this. When you get knocked out, none of them are going to help you up. None of them are going to be waking you up in the back. None of you are going to help you with the bills. None of those people that encouraged you to take a risk are going to be there when it doesn't work. None of them. So that's always what you have to keep in mind as a professional. Do you trust your coaches? Yes. They're going to help you come up with a strategy and do the right thing for your career. And if they're not, you leave the gym. But the point is, the guy on the street, the barista at Starbucks, is not going to send you a check because you lost and you didn't get your bonus, and now you got to figure out what to do for the next 6 months. And keeping that in the head of a young fighter, to me, is 100% vital. And every time, and I, by the way, I'm not online very much. I don't read what people say about me. I don't care what people say about me. And part of the reason is, and when people do go, oh, people didn't like this, I go, yeah, check kept cashing. It was weird. Yeah, check still arrived that week when, fans didn't like whatever it was. Like, okay, you have to be able to separate yourself as a professional, because that's what professionalism is and why we're not amateurs and why we don't do this in our free time. You have to be able to separate my performance as a professional from other people's opinions of that performance. This is not a democracy. You do not get a vote. And that's how it is with my career. So you have to hammer that home with people that grew up. Well, I'm too old, by the way. The internet didn't exist till I was in college. So this idea that you grew up in an environment where you're constantly, listening to what people are telling you, you got to get a professional out of that headspace. And it's not easy.
By the way, very well said, Jimmy. And this is a man, by the way, for the people in the comments who did the WWE and the UFC and other promotions. So you got hate from all sorts of areas. Lazy Bet also, and Kenny did the robot show. I'm sure there's a lot of haters on the robot show.
Always,
bunch of dorks. Criticizing
the robot is in the same gigahertz. Lazy Bed saying if the fight gets moved to Vegas and no longer in Mexico anymore, it's even more senseless. It is. That would even make it even sillier. Hey, just quickly, fellas, speaking of things sort of splitting off, what about this? I had Ilia Topuria's coach on just a few days ago to talk about the split. This is what he had to say. Have a listen to this.
He go to live to Madrid, and I have my own project here with my brother. Ilia go to Madrid. He have his own gym in his house, and he won all the energy on him, I feel, always this is not good for the sentimental thing, but it's the life. We go with him all the journey, and now he grow and he want to fly away, we are very proud to do all the way with him. We are very proud for everything he do. I want everything in his life continue going with.
There he is there. Now, a very mature response there for Jorge Clement, where Ilia Topuria came up in his gym. For people that don't realize, it's not like Ilia Topuria moved to another world. He moved 4 hours away to another city in Spain. Now, fellas, I know you've both been in a number of training camps. I'm sure you've both trained with coaches from all over America. Kenny, when you hear about a camp splitting mid-camp with a big fight, UFC 317, and seemingly the head coach, Jorge Clement, only learns about it like a couple of weeks ago, how much truth is there, do you believe, in what really happened here? Does this kind of stuff happen like this often? And how much can this hurt Ilia Topuria's camp having such a major change going into potentially the biggest fight of his career?
Oh, I'm confident we know 100% of the story. We know everything. We read it, right? We read it on the internet.
I think because he's got such a sexy English. He's got sexy English. He's got the sexy English, You're like, oh, well, maybe that is what happened. Maybe he did want to fly away like a little bird.
No, there's always something, right? Not to mention, the perspectives of the story itself. I'm sure his coach has a different story than Topuria, like a real story, not what, hey, I want to keep this kosher. We said we wouldn't, put this into the media. We're going to have our storylines and we're going to have our little sound bites of what we're going to say. But what really happened, I don't think we'll ever know unless we get close to Ilia Topuria and the coach simultaneously somehow. So, yeah, I mean, It's tough, and I totally get it. We talked to Ray Longo about it on the Anik and Florian podcast today, and he had a interesting perspective. He's like, I don't really love it just because Ilya is making that decision now. Now that he was the former champion, now that he's been to the top of the mountain, he's making that choice. Why did he make that? Why didn't he make that choice when he was coming up, when he wasn't a champion, when he wasn't, achieving those things? And I totally get that perspective. And as far as the loyalty to the coach thing, absolutely, I could definitely see that. But I mean, let's be honest. How many things does a fighter have to do during the day? Are you telling me that, yes, okay, it's from Alicante to Madrid, it's 4 hours, but I mean, there were times I didn't have time to go to the supermarket to go shopping. I'd be like, hey, call my sister. Can you pick up some stuff for me while I'm resting and trying to do this or whatever? Like training 2-3 times a day. You got to get your rest in. You got to get your other things in. There's so many other things to do. And I believe that things were headed in this direction already. Ilya, if you look at his last couple camps, at least his last one anyway, he was moving his whole training facility to his house. He had a bunch of coaches running around. Like, it seemed like things were heading in that direction already. But yeah, it's tough. Is this going to affect him for the Oliveira fight? I don't think so. I think Ilya is who he is. I think he's got his team in place. And who knows, fighters are selfish by nature, or I think they actually kind of should be, when it comes to their own training. I'm not saying this is the right decision or the wrong decision, whatever, but fighters have to do what they believe is the right choice and what's going to give them the best results possible moving forward. And, Ilya is he's got his brother, which is his right-hand man, who probably has done more training than anybody out there with him. And he's got his brother and probably feels that, hey, I got some other pieces of the puzzle I could put in place, and I'm going to go do that.
It's an interesting one, the way that it came together. Jimmy, from my perspective here, I get a feel that maybe, Ilya's been training with this team maybe for a little while, and this has kind of come through officially on the books. But we've all seen like MMA teams work with key coaches that maybe aren't there during the whole training camp and might just be there sort of, spiritually, or like, we've seen a bunch of fighters just hang on to their key coaches while working with other people, maybe bringing them for the corner or just fight week. It's very strange just to completely split like this. And, Jorge told me, no corner, no more work together. We won't cross paths again, like complete split. Very strange to just be like that, like, all right, never again we're working together. Usually they'll be like, oh, if we cross paths or I could fly down for the day, I'll still help him out, Very
Two
strange.
things very important. Number one, change ain't good. Right before a fight like this, you are undefeated. You are at the top of your career, and you're going to make a huge change before one of the biggest challenges you've ever had in your professional career. Charles Oliveira, who's a monster at a new weight class. All of this is indicative of a sudden change at a really inopportune time. Secondly, the other problem I have is, Kenny, if you have ever seen a fighter who's in charge of their own camp and it worked out great, I would love to hear it. You need that voice that is beyond you. Yes, fighters are selfish. Yes, fighters should do everything for themselves, 100%. Someone other than the fighter has to tell that fighter, you're screwing up. You need to do this, this, and that. This isn't right. This isn't right. And somebody's got to listen to them. A fighter that is in charge of their own development and their own camp, that is, in a lot of cases, the beginning of the end is when, no, I run when I want to run. Well, then you're not going to run when you don't want to run, was when you should be running. There has to be a voice that is above you that you listen to and you trust. Now, it can be a different voice. It's fine. But if there's no voice, right? If it's the fighter's in charge of when he does something, that is almost always a terrible situation because, we're all human beings. And if a fighter's in charge of what they do on a given day, they will almost always, voluntarily or not, take the path of least resistance. It's human nature. So there needs to be that voice, and we don't know what that voice is going to be. It's never good if it's the fighter's voice exclusively.
Well, Ilya, he is going to have coaches. He is going to have a coach. He's not running his own camp, but
I'm hoping he trusts them like he trusted the coaches who brought him up. Because Kenny, there are coaches and there are coaches. There are people who help you train and there are coaches. Yeah.
I don't think he spent a lot of time with the Clement brothers last camp.
Yeah,
maybe for the last couple camps. So I think, again, I think that was kind of like the testing ground of like, all right, I did it with these new guys. The Clement brothers cornered him, but I don't know if they were like a huge part of his last couple camps. But
We'll see.
I don't know. I could be wrong. I think it'll be interesting. I think if there's a fight that you're going to do it against, just based on what I've seen stylistically, and people may think I'm crazy, I think Oliveira is a very, very good fighter. Defensively, though, I think that it's I think it's a really good fight for Topuria. I see Topuria kind of getting on the inside like he has against other guys, and Charles, we've seen him get caught before, and against Topuria, you don't want to get caught too many times, maybe 0 times. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. We've seen it go really badly for a lot of guys with a new camp, and we've seen it go well as well. But how he managed this whole thing going forward, and especially like Jimmy said, it's like you've been trusting these guys not for like a year. You've been trusting these guys like your whole career. So what's that new voice going to be like? Are they going to know him like his other coaches know him? And maybe you can gain a lot of things technically from other people. But as far as your trust and the vibe and all those things that happen during fight week, it could be very different, and it could be disastrous.
It's fascinating. So obviously he's the black belt under Jorge Clement. So he's the man that shaped his whole submission game. Obviously he's probably worked with other people as well. There's a big connection there. And then also the elephant in the room could be a money thing as well, right? Going into the biggest fight of your career. That's something that fighters don't really talk about, but people that are in the comments don't realize there's all sorts of deals that need to be done. And if you're looking at a massive deal for this, maybe, and like you said, Kenny, if you're not really working with the guys, how can you cut them in on a big portion of the pie, and then maybe they don't want to be a part of it if the money's not there. But this is complete stuff that I'm creating from the top of my head. I do want to know, though, is this the same guy that asked him to be a part of this? Is this the same guy that instructed Ilia Topuria to be a part of this? Is this the guy that's telling him what to do in his career? Because recently the man played a little bit of guitar with Antonio Banderas.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
Ni el dinero ni el amor, jineteando en mi caballo por la sierra yo me voy. Las estrellas y la luna, ellas me dicen dónde voy. Ay, 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 mi amor. Ay, mi morena de mi corazón.
That's his walkout song.
That is awesome.
Wow.
Done.
Kenny, if Antonio Banderas comes out with him, is that the great? I mean, you've had some great walkout outfits and walkouts yourself. Is that going to be one of the greatest walkouts in UFC history?
That's amazing. What was that Saturday Night Live skit, Jimmy? Don't do it, Antonio. It's too sexy. Don't do it.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's funny, man. I think that this is one of the things where, to Jimmy's point, you have to be aware of. And this does not mean he's going to go the celebrity route and all this stuff, but things like this, if a coach isn't so comfortable with you, is he going to be able to tell you, hey man, maybe you should lay off some of these interviews. You have a fight coming up. Is this a distraction? Is this a positive thing? And so, yeah, I mean, Conor McGregor made some decisions that, took him away from what made him such a great fighter, because he was doing all these things outside of the sport. Right. So, I mean, Conor McGregor is one of many, many cases of many athletes across many different sports where if you get too far away from what you're supposed to be doing, it could be troublesome. And, we'll see how this is going to turn out. But what was the question exactly? I'm just talking about
the question is that will be the greatest. It's not even a question. It's just a statement. Okay. Antonio Banderas coming out with him with a guitar would be the greatest thing. And then they just sit on the octagon side. And because Ilia Topuria can't really play, he just kind of nods his head along. Would be the greatest entrance in UFC history.
With the Zorro outfit? I mean, come on.
Salma
With the
Hayek
Zorro
would be the greatest walkout ever. Salma Hayek.
Peter Jones on the horse.
That outfit on, that would be number one.
Still looks hot in her 50s, by the way.
Oh my God.
Dude. Yeah. We're just talking to the fellas about this. God, she just looks great. Jimmy, just quickly on that fight, Kenny mentioned all the things that would go right for Ilia Topuria in a fight with Charles Oliveira. How does Charles Oliveira, what would be his game plan to beating Ilia Topuria? Is this about getting the right scramble, getting his back? How does he beat Ilia Topuria here?
Yes and yes, because they're related. When I tell you Charles Oliveira has the best jiu-jitsu for MMA maybe in history, there are guys with better credentials. It's his ability to set up opportunistic passes, opportunistic movement, great scrambles, naturally very, very powerful. Remember, Justin Gaethje said he hit me harder than anyone who's hit me in my whole career, and that says a lot. He can crack. What Kenny was talking about, his defensive vulnerabilities are his weakness. But the reason he has them is he's so good at mixing it up and creating opportunities that lead to these unorthodox positions where he's so good, and he's so good at capitalizing on them. So what he wants is this. He wants to scramble, a mix-up, a twirling kind of jiu-jitsu game where you turn around, you can't breathe. And that's exactly what he wants. The dark side of this, he's not getting any younger, right? Much like everybody else at 155, been through a lot of wars, taken a lot of damage. Does he still have that explosiveness and that sudden movement you need to capitalize on his style at his age? But he wants that scrambling kind of never know what position you're going to be in from 1 second to the next. That's the kind of fight he wants. Ilia Topuria has a great ground game. If he can kind of stabilize Charles Oliveira, make him stay in one place and kind of hold him down, he has good pressure. He has good passes. He has excellent defense. If it's a Charles Oliveira kind of fight where he's constantly moving, that's the way he's going to win this one. And if I'm Ilia Topuria, stay tight, stay accurate, has a great right hand. There's no fat on any of his punches. Do not get in a wild exchange with Charles Oliveira because you're flipping the coin. And if Charles Oliveira lands, he can put you down. Ask anybody else at 155. So you want that. You want a bunch of coins flipping. That's the kind of fight that Charles Oliveira wants, because in a coin flip fight, he can beat anybody.
It's interesting. When I spoke to the coach, his former coach, he said, hey, his jiu-jitsu is real good, so he'll probably destroy Charles on the ground there. We've got a comment here. Ilia is going to sub Charles. Kenny, do you think Ilia overestimating his groundwork against Charles Oliveira?
If he hurts him, he can – no, because it wouldn't be they get in some kind of ground battle and Ilia catch him. It would be, boom, hurt him. He's trying to recover. You get his neck and take him out. That could easily happen. You know what I mean? Ilia has the ability to hurt you from so many different positions. He's striking is so sharp and quick and clean that he can hurt you, and then right when you're trying to recover, that's when you find yourself unconscious. And I think that's, if he does sub Charles Oliveira, it's probably in that kind of situation.
Kenny, any other advice for Charles Oliveira if he watches this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Charles Oliveira, his best chance is, getting those scrambles on the ground. I think that he seems to be, from what we've seen, he seems to be a more potent submission artist than Ilia Topuria. Now, I want to see a little bit more on the ground from Ilia Topuria. Typically, he hurts guys on the feet, and that's pretty much it. Or, so he looked great against Bryce Mitchell. How high level Bryce Mitchell is, I don't know. But he's very good. He submitted a lot of other guys, and Ilia Topuria made it look pretty easy on the ground against Bryce Mitchell. So, it's possible that he's better than Charles Oliveira. I haven't seen it yet enough to say, unequivocally that he's better, but it's very possible. I think that Ilia's best shot is getting into boxing range, being in the pocket and taking him out there. But Charles Oliveira needs to keep the fight on the outside. We saw Ilia get hurt. The one time we really saw him get hurt was against Jai Herbert, another tall, lanky guy who throws similar combinations to Charles Oliveira. So if Oliveira can keep him on the outside of his punches, on the outside of his kicks, maybe catch him with the knee on the inside, I think that could be problematic, even in some clinch fighting. If he can get the tie clinch, I think Charles, because of his height and strength, could pose some problems for Ilia Topuria there. But if I'm looking for the easiest path to victory, I think it would be an attempt to try to put Topuria on his back. I think that's where Oliveira, I think, is going to have the advantage for sure. But Ilia can wrestle. Ilia can do a lot of great things, and perhaps there's a lot of other things we haven't seen in Ilia Topuria's game that is there as well. So he's one of those guys that I've never seen a guy as complete as Ilia Topuria, as far as like knowing the game inside and out, from the business side of things, the fights that he takes, the decisions he makes in the fight. He just seems very, very seasoned. Again, talking about these guys that are starting the sport very early on, they get a chance to learn from everybody else's mistakes. And that's what the smart people do. They don't make the mistakes and learn from it. Yeah, there's a little bit of that for sure. But the smartest people make better decisions based on other people's mistakes. And it seems like that's what Ilia does really well. Seems like he's very disciplined and has been doing everything that he said he's going to do thus far. So it's hard to knock him out. I think he's the most complete. I think he's the best fighter in mixed martial arts at present moment. I mean, you don't get by a guy like Volkanovski and Max Holloway in the manner that you do and not be at a high level of skill. I don't think there's anybody who can fight in the pocket offensively and defensively like Ilia Topuria. It's not a skill we really see in MMA, just because it's a dangerous range to be in. And the fact that he seems like, he's mastered it pretty well, I think is extremely impressive.
Well, from one complete fighter to another, one is getting ready for a big fight, UFC 317, Kenny, and another is in Thailand having a good time. Have you guys seen the latest video of Jon Jones in Thailand living his best life? Look at this. Isn't this?
Oh,
man.
it's adorable.
We need
Is
the
the
Miley
heavyweight
Cyrus
champion.
Wrecking Ball song going on right now.
100%.
Well, yeah. What's going on?
So anyway, Thailand is going good for reigning undisputed heavyweight champion Jon Jones, who is somehow still got the belt around his waist. He's also riding around on scooters, putting his hands through a guy's hair who tried to attack Nate Diaz and Jake Shields in the Tough House and drove them to get out of the country. Jimmy Smith, is Jon Jones doing himself any favors here? Is he now the biggest heel in MMA of all time?
I mean, how many years can he act the same way? It's this idea of like when you
is it getting worse? Is it getting worse?
If you had said, Jimmy, I'm about to show a video of Jon Jones in Thailand, that is the cleanest one I think we could have possibly. I was like, all right, in a pool with a bunch of dudes. Okay, that is as good as it was going to get from Jon Jones. This is who Jon Jones is. This is what he has always been, and it's the talent, the ability. It's off the chart. It is what it is. But the idea that we expect him to go to Thailand and we're going to watch him do road work, you're out of your mind. I just don't see that at all. So is he a heel? Sure, but I don't remember when he wasn't. I don't think he's been a face, in the traditional sense since the first DC fight.
He tried to be, right? It was too scripted.
It was too scripted. And when it's so true, and by the way, Kenny and I have done interviews like that. Kenny, I'm sure you've done it when you're in studio and they go to different media outlets, right? You're on the whole time, and they tell you that. You're always loved. You're on the satellite, as they say. When he did that DC behind the scenes saying, I'm going to kill you, that whole facade dropped. It never came back, and he's been a heel since. But if you're going to be a heel, go all the way with it. And Jon Jones has gone all the way with it, made millions of dollars. It's worked out for him great. So the idea that it's somehow worse, or I think that ship done sailed damn near a decade ago. So this is what Jon Jones is, man, having a good time in Thailand. And, will I fight again? And that's up to me. I'll let you know when. That doesn't surprise me at all. It's Tom Aspinall who's on the shelf and has to wait and might be giving up his prime in his early 30s, where you never know when the window's closing. That's the part. I don't look at Jon Jones at all. There are two currencies in MMA, in combat sports: actual currency, money, and legacy. And Jon Jones has so much of both that you can't tax him anymore. He's got it all. So it's Tom Aspinall who needs to A, earn while he can, and B, if he's going to make a legacy, he's got to start making it soon. He's been off for a year. So to me, that's the side of the story we should be focused on. Oh, Jon Jones is partying? Really? The sun's out, right? I don't know what else. Like, tree leaves are green. I don't know what else to tell you, right? So it's the other side of the equation that interests me more is Tom Aspinall, when he's going to go, look, I got to fight.
Kenny, I've never seen anyone negotiate a fight by swimming around with a bunch of dudes in Thailand or going around and doing these kinds of things. Jon Jones is one of one, but Jimmy is correct.
That's tame. That's nothing.
Jimmy
is
nothing. Jimmy is correct, though.
Thailand,
Tom Aspinall.
I've been there. All right.
Yeah, it's near Australia, Jimmy.
That's it.
Yes,
I've been to Thailand.
That's it.
I trained, by the way. I was training in Thailand.
Yeah. You were at the ping pong
doing,
shows. We know where you were, Jimmy. Anyway,
I've maybe seen a couple.
But Kenny, what do you make of Jon Jones basically using this to build the fight, better deal for himself? But Jimmy also mentioned that Tom Aspinall sitting at home, more pressure on him mounting as things go on against the toughest fight of his career that he cannot lose. Because if Jon Jones goes out there and beats Tom Aspinall, and retires, he basically kills the entire UFC heavyweight division. Because when you look through the rankings, there is no one. And if he leaves after beating Tom Aspinall, I don't even know what they're doing for that belt next. What do you make of this weird situation that Tom Aspinall is in right now, and the fact that Jon Jones is basically getting the deal of a lifetime, but having the time of a lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Aspinall needs to fight. I think he needs to fight Cyril Gane, defend his interim belt, I guess, and I don't know, stay active. Again, what are you going to do? Waste a lot of your crucial MMA career waiting for this one fight? And who knows? Maybe the UFC themselves are telling me, like, you don't want to lose this opportunity. Who knows? But I think he's eventually going to have to fight, and I think this is all part of the plan of Jon Jones. He does not care. I think Jimmy, we think a lot alike. I think he was spot on. He doesn't need to fight. Why would he? Again, if you understand combat sports, you have to understand one thing, is that, you're the champion one day, and then, you're the old lion the next, and you have to feed that next young up-and-comer. Jon Jones sees this coming from a mile away, and he's not here to play that game. He's like, okay, I will play that game. I will fight. You want me to fight? I'll fight. But I'm going to fight when I'm ready. I'm going to fight on my time, on my schedule. You're going to pay me what I want to get paid, and that's it. I'm not going to go and make a name for Tom Aspinall, because that's what the UFC wants. They want this GOAT, right? I don't know if they want it necessarily, but it'd be a nice scenario if they had this new guy in Tom Aspinall who finally defeats Jon Jones and then becomes the biggest name in combat sports. That's what they want. And they want to make that happen, and they want it on their terms as well. So Jon Jones understands that if this is just a game going back and forth of who's trying to, anytime you're trying to make a deal, someone's going to have to give in at a certain point. But Jon Jones has all the money in the world, like Jimmy Smith said. He does not care. He's got a perfect legacy. And he doesn't need this fight. Tom Aspinall needs this fight. The UFC needs this fight. So they're going to have to bend over for this fight. Period.
Jimmy, when does the UFC take the belt off Jon? What point?
They can't, because they lose in the process. Here's the thing.
He's out of the deal, right? If they take it, he's gone.
If they strip Jon Jones, that makes the fight less attractive. I don't think Jon Jones cares but if the UFC does that, they're going to strip Jon Jones of the belt, and now they don't have the two guys with the two belts on the poster.
When they believe the fight is done, they strip him. If you hear tomorrow the UFC has stripped Jon Jones,
they would have done it already.
It means they know it's done, right? It's not going to happen before. There's no incentive for the UFC to strip him. If they know that ship done sailed, then it's like, all right, hey, we need our belt back. Before you leave, could you leave that, please? Could you leave that? That's what we're going to see. It's a different mentality all the way around. Before you leave, can I please have my belt, right?
I've just never seen Dana White love someone so much and basically give them this negotiation, this great spot in a negotiation where you're telling fans you're going to make a fight and creating all this intrigue, and now you put yourself in a shitty position where fans are going to flip if this Tom Aspinall Jon Jones fight doesn't happen. Just quickly, fellas, because I know you guys have to get going. Last thing, Merab put up a picture of his toe. We're not long now from UFC 316. Kenny, I know Ray Longo, fixture on the Anik Florian podcast. Want to go to you first. How much do you think this could be an issue against Sean O'Malley? He's not really known for his grappling, right? So, yeah. but the movement, you need some movement against a sharpshooter like Sean.
He's got 4 more toes. He's fine. He's not an issue. Not an issue. Listen, I don't think there's a whole lot of things that's going to stop Merab from fighting, a couple weeks from now. It's a broken toe, not a huge deal, but not ideal. If I'm fighting a guy like a Sugar Sean O'Malley with great footwork and a very potent striker, I want as many things at 100% that I can. So, but Merab is just a different human being. I don't think he cares. I think he's dealt with a lot of things like this, and who knows? Maybe he's just, I don't know. Maybe this is an old injury. Maybe this is from like a few weeks ago. Who knows? It's possible. It's very possible that it just happened. And Merab doesn't make the best decisions as far as like posting videos of
why does he do
things.
That? Why does he do that?
I don't know.
Why does he?
We all have our strengths and weaknesses, right?
I'm sure Ray's spoken to him about 100 times. Dude, stop with the posting.
I know. What are you doing? Yeah, he did it last camp too. But anyways,
I'm just foot stomping him up against the cage over and over if he's going to.
I don't know. It's crazy. I hope Merab's going to be as close to 100% as possible. It's a tough ask no matter who you are, but at the end of the day, is it going to affect Merab? Well, I guess we'll find out. Sugar Sean he's a dangerous dude.
Healthy Sugar Sean, Jimmy, giving him a shot here?
Sugar Sean? Not much of one. I would favor Merab pretty heavily. I favored him heavily the first time around. It's the idea that Sugar Sean does have power, is accurate. The one enemy would be complacency for Merab. I thought he dominated the last time around. Understand that there were times you were walking between raindrops, and if one of those right hands hits you, you're in deep, you know what. And I will say one thing about great coaching, and Merab has great coaching. A great coach finds victory in defeat, right? You lose and they pump you up until we're going to get them next time. Here's what we can improve. That they find victory in that. They also find defeat and victory. You might kill somebody and they go, yeah, but you let your right hand drop. If you do that against somebody else, that left hook's going to hit you. Good coaches go, great performance. You destroyed him, but work on this, this, and this, because next time you see that guy, he's going to improve those things. And I believe that obviously the Longo Serra team is going to have that mentality of we have to be better than we were last time, because Sugar Sean's going to be better. If Merab walks in there with the this is not a gimme mentality, which is a lot. Another thing you got to keep out, don't listen to fans. Oh, this is going to be easy. They're not there helping you, people. They're not going to pick you up when you fall down. He cannot listen to the, oh my gosh, Sugar Sean doesn't deserve this and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, he might not. He can still crack and hit you. So if he comes with the right mentality, I see Merab winning this fight.
Kenny, is Tim Welch just yelling things at Merab all fight with this rematch? What are you doing if you're Tim? If you're going to fight it that bothered, though, is that just a no-brainer to at least do once or twice if he's going to be yelling at you in the octagon?
The overcoaching call by Herb Dean is one of the greatest calls of all time. I never thought I would ever see that. That and the stop kissing. Two things that you'll never see in MMA, but it happened in that one fight. Yeah, I think he understands. There's not a whole lot of things that are going to take Merab off his game. In fact, I just saw the fight today, and it was weird. O'Malley took control of the center of the octagon to start the fight, and he looked good, looked confident. And as soon as Merab started getting in that shouting match with Tim Welch, he just flipped the switch and all of a sudden, dominated the center of the octagon, started pressing him back. And it was just certain things that fire certain people up. Certain people work great on emotions. Certain people do not. I'm one of those people. I don't like getting overly emotional. It's best for me to kind of be as stoic as possible. For Merab, it's the more fired up he gets, the stronger he gets. He's like the Incredible Hulk. So, yeah, man. I think Tim should probably just be as quiet as possible. Go in there humble. We'll see what happens and try to take Merab by surprise. Because I think actually what Jimmy was saying is, overconfidence could do Merab in. Merab has always kind of had that chip on his shoulder. He's always had the underdog mentality. And when you start to adopt a different mentality of one is maybe overconfident, or I'm the champ now and I'm going to be here for a long time, no one's going to take my belt. Well, that could be the beginning of the end.
Jimmy, just quickly, Patchy Mix, is he the guy to beat Merab here, or you reckon still got a lot of answering to do? The UFC.
He has some answering to do. He's one guy where a lot of times you look at a fighter.
You know him well, though. You've commentated his
very
fights.
well.
Yeah.
Here's the issue: is when a fighter is great at something and they go, "This is my wheelhouse. Once I'm in this range or doing this thing, I have a huge advantage over you." Patchy Mix's ground game is enough that Merab would go, "Okay, I got to be careful here." So his normal strength with his wrestling, his top pressure, his control, his ability to out scramble guys. Patchy Mix. You may look like you're doing great, and then boom, he gets that guillotine or that front choke, and you're out. It would make Merab hesitate, where Merab normally doesn't hesitate in those positions. So I'm not saying he's necessarily the guy to beat him, but he's the only guy where once that fight hit the floor, I'm not sitting there going, "Oh, Merab's got this." I wouldn't think that at all. And it's such a test of a fighter. When you go, "Man, I knock everybody out," you're getting on the guy striking better than you. What you have in that second and third game, to me, defines you as a fighter. And that would be an opportunity for Merab to define himself as a fighter against a guy in Patchy Mix who has a really fantastic ground game.
Yeah, and I'm curious, do they know each other? They train with each other. And now, I don't know if that's an advantage or disadvantage now for one or
in Vegas,
both guys,
right? At Extreme Couture, yeah.
So that's interesting, man. Patchy's no joke.
Yeah, he's a monster.
Yeah.
And you know what else isn't a joke? Merab being a great stick man. I know Ray Longo spoke to you about that, Kenny, on the show. He's always popping up in various people's corners. You're like, what is this guy doing in this chick's corner, this chick's corner, this chick's corner? So the guys in undisputed
making the rounds.
Dude,
in and out of the octagon. Couple of champions here. Kenny, Florian,
in Thailand? That was in Thailand. Go ahead. I'm sorry, what?
No, boys, I'm booking
sorry.
us a trip. That was the pain.
I was training the whole time.
Yeah, we're all going to Thailand together. Kenny, as we wrap up Anik Florian podcast, what else is happening this week, my friend?
Thank you, sir. What else is happening? I'm the worst marketing guy of all time. That's it. My birthday's this week. I don't know. So there you go. That's
Oh,
it. Yeah.
Kitty!
What are we doing?
I'm almost
when
50,
are me and Jimmy
man.
coming
crazy.
over?
Seriously,
when are we
what's
coming
up?
over?
Yeah. Are you throwing us a party? Let's do it. In
Let's do it,
Australia.
man.
There you go,
Let's
Jimmy.
do
We're
it.
going to Melbourne.
Flights are on the way, fellas. It's only going to take you 45 hours to get here. Jimmy, while you fly down here, what else is happening this week?
I'm on Pro Box TV all week. We had a fight. I called a fight from Tokyo, Japan last Saturday morning. I finished at 6 a.m. So I'm on Pro Box TV all week, doing my daily show from there. Obviously, check out my YouTube channel, all that fun stuff. And I'll be doing some stuff. Kenny knows about this, doing some stuff for PFL, some of their international stuff, some of their what they call Challenger Series stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun, but that's coming on later this year. As soon as they announce it, I can announce it as well.
Hell yeah, man. Are you going to be in Australia for the Australian thing?
I don't know. We'll see.
All right. Well, there's
Mum's the word right now. Kenny knows
big things
what's up.
happening. Big things happening
Right.
for the boys. Remember to drop a birthday wish for our man Ken Flo and of course Jimmy Smith. That is Submission Radio Morning After. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program. Of course,
Walker's
Submission
on the
Radio.
way, Kenny. I got you a custom walker.
Man, I need
it is
one.
beautiful.
I need
Let's
one.
go,
Thank you.
St. Kilda. Turn it around. Thank you so much for joining us, guys.